UNICEF warns that 1 in 3 children under the age of 2 are malnourished in Gaza. According to a report by the aid organization, at least 23 children in the Northern Gaza Strip have reportedly already died from malnutrition and dehydration in recent weeks. To discuss, I'm joined by UNICEF spokesperson in the Middle East and North Africa, Saleem Oweis. Saleem, good morning and thanks for your time. When we talk about malnutrition and dehydration, what does dying from both those two things look like?
Well, it's a really painful and let me say ugly death for children who are their only fault is being in the wrong place in Gaza. Gaza now is the worst place for children to be. It's the most dangerous place, and not only from bombardment and attacks. Now it's moving to really preventable causes like malnutrition. As you said, 1 in 3 children in the Northern Gaza Strip under 2 are suffering from acute malnutrition. That's double the number that was in January. In 1 month, the numbers have doubled. The same happened in Rafah, which is, if you want, a little bit better because aid is accessing Rafah to some extent. But also in Rafah, it was 5% of the children under 2 suffering from acute malnutrition in January, and in 1 month it doubled to 10%. Of course, these numbers are from February. Now the numbers, we expect them to rise as the war continues and as the suffering continues, and with the lack of at-scale aid access into the Gaza Strip and across.
How quickly does a child succumb to malnutrition and acute malnutrition?
Well, of course, it all depends on the child's health before malnutrition, but the problem is with malnutrition, the organs of the body start to shut down one after the other. And that's why I'm saying it's an ugly, painful death. And not only for the children themselves, but for their parents. It really kills part of the parents as they see their children dying this way. This shouldn't be a way to go. Children are suffering for days and sometimes for weeks because of malnutrition. And of course, those who survive malnutrition, there's a huge risk on their future, because malnutrition not only kills, but if you survive, sometimes it really affects the development of of the body of the child, of the organs, of the cognitive abilities. It really affects the development of a child who's, we know that we need to give everything to the child to develop properly. Unfortunately, if that doesn't happen, that means their development as a whole is impacted. And that means that they're going to grow up not to be the functional, productive people that they are meant to be.
It's just really sad to hear, you describe this, especially in the opening. It's a painful and ugly death for children, for innocence. We know that around 346,000 children under the age of 5 in the Gaza Strip are exposed to malnutrition. You've just shared with us the very real legacy threat that there is in terms of these children who happen to survive this period of malnourishment, get the help that they need, but there are some really dire projections for the quality of life that they can have wrought by things like stunting and so on. So the future really looks quite bleak, even if if we're able to in a sense rescue these children. Is that correct?
Well, yes, but the more that we wait, the more that future will become darker. So it's really essential now to come to the rescue and to really get aid into the Gaza Strip and across it as fast as possible and at scale. The problem now is aid is getting in very slowly, very restricted. We need all crossing points to be open. Now we only have 2, and this makes it really hard for aid organizations to reach to children. In addition to that, we have the problems on the ground, the safety, security issues and challenges for aid convoys to go across the Gaza Strip and to meet children and their families where they are and to distribute the aid. Well, all of this makes it really, really... Sorry.
Complete your thought.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's really challenging for all the aid organizations, whether it's UNICEF or otherwise. What we need now is really secured access and guarantees for aid people, but also for children and their families who are trying to get to the aid, wherever it is.
Well, we've been reporting today Israel approving the opening of aid routes into Gaza following that ultimatum from the United States. Let's talk about treatments for malnourishment. Again, and as has been reported, medical supplies and treatment opportunities are extremely limited in the territory. But how do you treat acute malnutrition? And what is the need, Saleem, today?
Well, that's the point. First of all, of course, there's food to prevent malnutrition and to feed the children. But once a child has acute malnutrition, that means they need medical care, not only food, because their bodies stop receiving food as it should. So there's a lot that needs to get in medical supplies and malnutrition treatments and supportive nutrients. All that needs to get fast. And, of course, that means that we need the facilities to do that. We need places where children can go and get that support. Unfortunately, in the Gaza Strip, we're talking about a very dire situation, almost destroyed health system. And add to that the lack of the supplies and the material that we need to treat children. We're trying as UNICEF, and we know that other organizations are to get aid as fast as possible and to get it as close as possible to children. But as of now, it's still not enough, and especially for children in the north where access is really difficult and challenging.
Talk to us about the conditions under which your staffers work.
Well, the conditions are almost impossible. We're talking about continuous bombardments and attacks all around. There's really no safe place in the Gaza Strip, not for children, not for civilians, and not for aid workers, as we've been seeing in the last month. The UN has lost over 170 of its staff, unfortunately, and we are continuing to see that happening. The conditions are really dire. We are talking about the infrastructure not there. Even the roads are destroyed and hard to use to get to the places that we need to go. There are problems with permissions and access and really coordination. The lack of communication on the ground because of the cuts, the communication cuts that we've witnessed during the last month. So it's a plethora of really hard conditions that our colleagues are working through in the Gaza Strip. But nonetheless, we continue to try and we continue to push for access and push for a distribution of the aid, and calling for the first thing that we need now is ceasefire, because that's the only way to keep children from being killed, from being subjected to malnutrition, illnesses, diseases, and in the suffering, in the lack of that, what we need is really secured access and guarantees on the ground.
Well, let's see where a lot of these diplomatic interventions leave. The need that you say is most pressing right now is being able to have that access and being able to work and respond to this crisis. UNICEF spokesperson in the Middle East and North Africa, Saleem Oweis, thank you very much for your time.